Hello. So I haven't made a video for a while because of various reasons. But I thought I would look at what I have in the way of Green Day albums, compact discs. These are all secondhand. And Green Day is a band that I like, but I don't like enough to buy their stuff new ever. No, there's one case where I did buy a new Green Day album. I bought Dookie on cassette. Would have been about 1995-ish, I would guess. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a tickly throat coming into winter here in New Zealand. Sicknesses are going around again. So what do I have? I basically have their mid-era. Oh no, the early mid-era. No, I don't know how you really class it. I've got from Dookie through to 21st Century Breakdown. But yes, the first album of theirs that I own is Dookie. Now, in my opinion, this is their best album. It's pretty much decent songs end to end. And I guess it depends on how you feel about Green Day and that kind of pop punk sound as to how you'd view the album. But if you do like it, and if you just kind of like more straight ahead rock music, I think people would like this kind of album. And some of these songs on here now have almost kind of moved into the classic rock kind of playlist. Like you would hear When I Come Around and maybe Basket Case on classic rock playlists. When I say classic rock, I guess actually I was watching a video about this recently about when something is classed as classic rock. But because in my city there are a few rock radio stations, and one of them is classic rock, and it doesn't really go past about 1985, I've noticed. And it kind of late 60s and 70s is really where it plays the most. So maybe on that station they wouldn't, but there's another station that's more general from the 60s through to the 90s, and certainly on that station they would play Green Day. So yeah, obviously the big singles, Basket Case and When I Come Around, Longview. I think Welcome to Paradise was a single, maybe. I always really like Welcome to Paradise. It's kind of it's always been my favorite song of theirs since I was about 14 or 15. First song I heard of theirs was Basket Case, and I didn't really think much of it, but everyone else seemed to be going nuts about it. And I've talked about this before, how in New Zealand, when did this come out? 94? I think it was 94. Yes, 1994. So it's its 30th anniversary this year. Jeez. That's crazy, eh? 30 years ago. When this came out, a lot of my friends and a lot of people who were in my school year really loved it, and it was kind of the big album of that time. All the cool people listened to it, but I never really fully liked it that much. Like I said, I bought the cassette of it, so I liked it enough, but I wasn't like a huge fan of theirs. The other song I really like on this is FOD, Fuck Off and Die, if you're wondering. Kind of starts off with just Billy Joe Armstrong and an acoustic guitar, and then about halfway through it kind of breaks into the whole band. I really like that it's like just a basic power chord progression, but that they do in that part, I've always really liked that. Burnout's a good song. Yeah. Anyway, overall, it is a classic album, and a kind of classic 90s album. I think if you went through the 90s and collated a kind of the 50, I was going to say 20. Would this be in the top 20? You know, Never Mind, Dirt, The Downward Spiral, 10, etc. Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Metallica Black Album. Would this one be on the top 20 of the 90s? That might be a bit of a stretch. It would certainly be in the top 50. Kind of representative. I'd say maybe it would be in the top 20 for the very fact that it really was the icon, not the right word, the representative band of that resurgence of punk music in the mid-90s, that kind of West Coast California punk music that kind of gained some popularity. And I'd say that these guys really were, these guys or Offspring were the torch bearers or the flag bearers or the representative band of that. And so for that fact alone, I'd say maybe the album more than Smash by Offspring. But in saying that, they did a list of the most played songs on a 90s radio format. This was in America. So, and the Offspring song Self-Esteem was on the top 10, which quite surprised me. A very popular song, but I didn't think it was that popular. It was the 10 most played songs in any given year, even in 2024. So I can't remember how much I paid for this. The condition is a little bit ratty, you can see there, but the play's fine, and that's all that really matters, isn't it? Reprise. Their next album was Insomniac. This came out at 2 years later, was it? They really tried to strike, 95, the next year. Oh, you don't see that much nowadays, do you? They really tried to strike while the iron was hot. So this Dookie, I think, probably sold close to 10 million copies. And so Reprise, their record label, said, come on, boys, get another album out while the going is good. And so they did. But from my memory, so this album, I was going to say from my memory, it didn't do as well. It didn't do as well, but from my memory not from my memory. Listening to this, you can see it's a lot less, they're both punk albums, but I call them pop punk. This one's more pop punk, whereas this is kind of more on the just straight ahead punk. And you could see it didn't have as much commercial success due to that. In saying that, it did have several singles and some pretty catchy songs. I think Geek Stink Breath was the first single, with a pretty gross video from memory. It was like some guy getting a rotten tooth taken out of his mouth at a dentist. Brain Stew is the other song that I remember being played. I think that was on the Godzilla soundtrack. The movie came out in the late 90s. Very simple. One of the first songs I learned to play on guitar was Brain Stew. But it's a good album, so I'm not saying it's a bad album. But the other thing I remember is that, especially being a teenager, that kind of styles change, and that by this stage, the the needle had moved a little bit to something else, and so Green Day didn't have the same popularity among my friend group and teenagers as a whole in my country. And I remember specifically the day this album came out, me and my friend were in a record shop. And I had some money and he had some money. We were picking out a CD to buy. The one I ended up buying was One Hot Minute by the Chili Peppers. And I remember I got a free poster. So I got the CD and a free poster. I can't remember what he got, but I remember when I took the Chili Peppers CD to the counter, the guy said, I would have thought you guys were buying the new Green Day album because that would have been released that day. And I remember I said something like, I don't know, some dumb teenage thing like, they're not cool anymore or something like that. But it did sell less than Dookie. This copy is in very good condition. I got this from Real Groovy. The Blue Dot Special, I guess probably around $4 maybe. But I've said before that the good thing about buying from Real Groovy is that the condition of the disc and the case is always as close to new as a secondhand CD can be. If we just look at this booklet, we've got the lyrics. We don't have any images of the band themselves though. We have kind of like this collage of, what era is that? 1940s, 50s? Bits and pieces stuck together. Like I assume that in the original thing, the lady wasn't holding a guitar and a gun pointed at a man's face. So they released that, and yes, their popularity waned somewhat. Not completely. They were still, I remember they came to New Zealand, played a show here. I didn't go to it. And they did a really cheap tickets, trying to kind of stay true to their punk roots. Like $20 or something crazy like that. Like even back in the mid-90s, that was cheap. And and I think they, they sold out. Then what came next? Nimrod, I think, was next, which would have been 99, 97. Geez, a lot earlier than I thought. So this was 96. No, what did I say? This was 95. Did I say 95? Yes. Okay, 94, 95. So I got 94, Dookie 94, Insomniac 95. 2 years later, Nimrod 97. And $2 I got this for 4 years ago. It's funny, reading bits and pieces, people, the kind of popular consensus is that around these two albums, I'm talking about this one after, Warning and Nimrod, they were really floundering. However, looking at the track listing, there's actually quite a few songs on here that I remember being played on the radio a lot. Nice Guys finished last, Hitchin' a Ride, and Redundant. And of course, track 17, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, which the main memory I have from that, and maybe this was true around the world, but maybe it was just in New Zealand, that the TV channel decided to do it. In 1998 was the last episode of Seinfeld. If you were a Seinfeld fan in the 90s, you probably remember that. And when they were advertising it, New Zealand TV back then, it was usually like at least 6 months or a year behind American or British TV. So say a new series came out in America, we would usually get it a year later. But with Seinfeld, with things that were really popular, like Seinfeld, for example, or The Simpsons, they would tend to try to get it here quicker. And I remember that the last Seinfeld episode in 1998 was played in America in May 98. And they had it here in New Zealand by about August, which is pretty quick. Now, nowadays, of course, it's released everywhere at the same time. So it kind of seems like anachronistic to be talking about delayed TV. But anyway, sorry, my point in saying that was that song, Time of Your Life, was used by the TV channel here in New Zealand to advertise the last Seinfeld episode. Why? I don't know. I guess it's kind of meant to be sad, even though that kind of really went against any kind of sincerity, was a complete contradiction of the whole premise of that show, and especially the last episode. But it was used. So I remember for like a month beforehand, incessantly they played that song on TV. I never really liked that song. I still don't really like that song now. I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me for whatever reason. So yeah, the rest of the songs on the album, I think a bit hit and miss, but still some good songs. Walking Alone, Reject, was it Worry Rock? This was produced by Rob Cavallo. Now I think Rob Cavallo also did, yes, he did this one. Don't think he did this. Who did this one? Oh, it is Rob Cavallo. Rob Cavallo's done all three of their albums. I don't know if he did their big label. They did some indie records like Kerplunk was the one before Dookie, and another one which I can't remember the name of. I don't know what label they're on. And then, so that was 97. Then I'm going to guess that this came out in 2000. Am I right? Yes, 2000. There we see. And this was produced by Green Day, not Rob Cavallo. Now, what do we see on this? Warning. Ding, 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 ding. Church on a Sunday. Was that a single? Maybe it's just I remember it. But Jackass, I like that song. Waiting, I like that song. Minority, that was another single, wasn't it? Had a kind of a Celtic feel to it. I think, what did they use, like an accordion or a fiddle or something in it? But it has kind of like a, almost like a Dropkick Murphys type vibe to it. And Macy's Day Parade. Kind of like a slower song. Again, I didn't really like that song very much. You can see on this copy here, the hinge is broken on this side. So if you don't know the members, Billy Joe Armstrong, vocals and guitar. Mike Dirnt, which apparently I didn't know this until recently. That's actually not his given name. That's a stage name. Dirnt was meant to be the sound that he made. I think when he was doing air bass, when he was younger, like a teenager, like you'd play air bass, and the sound he would make when he was making the air bass would be Dirnt, 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 Dirnt. So he became Mike Dirnt. And Trey Cool is not his name. His name is Edwin, I think. Oh, that's a message I just received on my phone. Edwin something the third. I'm not going to look it up because why should I? Recorded in the city of Oakland, which is where they were from originally. Or were they from Berkeley? Is Berkeley in Oakland? I don't know. I'm not really up to date with the Bay Area geography and urban area crossovers. So this is where they were kind of I have no idea about sales wise, but I'm going to say culturally and their place in the popular consciousness, they were on a kind of a downswing on this era, certainly. Still played on the radio here. Even like I said, I recognize some of those songs, but certainly didn't have the cachet with the youth that they would have had 5 years previously. But then, this album came out. And when was this? This 2004, I'm going to guess. 2004. So 4 years. They took a bit of a gap between those other ones. Other ones came in quite quick succession. And this one kind of blew them up back to the size that they were with Dookie. Maybe even bigger. Where particularly their song American Idiot, but also Jesus of Suburbia, Holiday, those first four songs were all huge singles from my memory. Some other good songs though, like Saint Jimmy, Letter Bomb. So American Idiot kind of came out in the era of George Bush, and the whole war on terror, I guess, is kind of what it was commenting on to a degree. But it's I don't know how to really describe it. So I've heard it kind of described as a rock opera or something like that. Well, Rob Cavallo's back. Maybe he's the key to success for them. I don't really know enough about the whole backstory to go into. Like, I know there's a character, Jimmy, and I've never really looked into what the story is. But when I first heard the song American Idiot, I didn't like that song. I still don't really like the song. I think it's overly simplistic, a bit boring. Then I heard the song Jesus of Suburbia. And the first time I heard that, I didn't think much of it. It's quite a long song, isn't it? It's about, for Green Day, it's a long song. It's like 6 minutes long, maybe. And that song kind of grew on me more and more. And then the thing that really made me appreciate that song is I saw a live version. They released a concert DVD of them playing in Milton Keynes in Britain. And the live version of that song in particular was impressive. So much energy. Kind of like when you watch a live performance sometimes of a band, especially that kind of music, high energy music, and it pumps you up, and by the end of it, you're kind of like fuck yeah, or it makes you want to kind of do something, or without over dramatizing it. But I remember thinking that when I saw that video, I thought, wow, that's a really good live performance. And that kind of made me appreciate the song more. The rest of the song, like I said, the rest of the album's okay. I don't think it's a super amazing album. I do definitely prefer Dookie to it, but it seemed to capture the zeitgeist, or however you want to refer to it, to a certain degree, and it was very, very popular. And those singles in particular were played a lot on radio and TV. They toured down here, and I'm pretty sure they played a reasonably sized venue and sold it out. Like I said, they played Milton Keynes in England, and that's, if you don't know, it's like quite a large outdoor venue. I don't know how many tens of thousands of people it can hold, but I'm not sure how it did in America. I assume it did as well in America, but I'm not totally sure about that. And then the album after that, 21st Century Breakdown, which is probably, out of all these ones I've shown all the albums I've shown so far, is the one that I appreciate the least. Probably also the one I've listened to the least, by far. Now, when did this come out? This came out in 2009. Was there anything between American Idiot and that? Was there a 5-year gap? Even more ambitious, obviously. Even more ambitious than American Idiot. 21st Century Breakdown is a record of die-hard punk ideals. I don't like any of the songs that were used as singles. I particularly don't like the... which one was it? Was it 21 Guns? No, Your Enemy is, again, overly simplistic. You can see here, again, it's kind of divided up into acts, like a kind of a story type thing, like they did on American Idiot. I think this did relatively well as well. I don't know how well. By this time, 2009, the record industry had changed massively. And so doing well is relative, of course. See here, I didn't know this, that Butch Vig produced this. Anyway, this was secondhand for $1. Looks like it's barely ever been touched before. The booklet's in perfect condition, except for those little push-up parts where it's been done by the ridged things. But the actual booklet itself looks like it's not even been opened. And the CD and the jewel case hub, likewise. I think whoever bought this didn't listen to it. And I don't really blame them, because I haven't really listened to it. I probably listened through to it 2 or 3 times from beginning to end. And it just didn't, for whatever reason, didn't really grab me. One thing I'd say is that with these 2 albums, as opposed to the preceding, especially Dookie and Insomniac, those other 4 albums had humor, especially kind of if you watch some of the videos as well, whereas these ones seem very self-serious. This one in particular. Is that what I found disagreeable? I don't know. This one a Grammy. I actually had 2 copies of this. I bought a second copy, forgetting that I already owned a copy. So I decided to keep this one because this one had a cleaner cover, and the CD was largely scratch-free, or completely scratch-free. So yeah, that is what I have in the way of Green Day albums. I don't have anything past 21st Century Breakdown. I don't even know what came after that. I know they did that Uno, Dos, Tres 3-album series. That would have been after 21st Century Breakdown, so the next. Then they also did, they've just done one recently, like in the last year, and they did something that I remember got terrible reviews. Was it one with like a unicorn vomiting on the front cover or something? It got fucking crucified on some of the reviews I read about it, so I never actually listened to it. So in summary, I don't know really know what I would say in summary. I think Green Day are a band who've got some really good songs. I think as far as full albums go, they can sometimes put in a bit of filler. And I guess the kind of music they write, which is based in punk, even as they go off into kind of rock operas and more kind of ballady type stuff, still based in punk rock, I guess kind of does tend to be a bit repetitive, and that's how I feel about some of their music. However, I'd stand by Dookie as being a pretty classic album, and looking at it, maybe it's just because it's so kind of reminiscent of my youth. Looking at that, you know, from 1 to 14, almost every song there is a great song. Anyway, Green Day, 30 years this year. Dookie, celebrating their anniversary. Well, I'm not, but someone is. Maybe the band are. Anyway, thank you for watching.